Alright guys, for this lesson we are going to classify triangles. I've put a chart on the screen here that you need to copy into your journals. I would pause this video and sketch every single one of these because this is something you will use many times from now. But let's go over them. The first one is an equal angular triangle. And triangles can have more than one classification. So it can be, sometimes it can be two of these things. Sometimes three, but we'll go over that. Equal angular means all the angles of the triangle, see these three angles here, are all congruent, or they all equal the same, okay? If this little sign doesn't make sense to you for congruent, then when you write this in your journals, write the word equals. An acute angle is all the angles are acute, meaning less than 90. Less than 90. Let's see here. The angles, I don't know how to say that. Angles less than 90. So all three of these angles, if you were to measure them, they would be less than 90 degrees. My math teacher when I was in high school, I'm not sure which, said acute. Think of acute as a cute little angle. Acute. So pretend it's two words, meaning the angle is small. Okay. Right triangles, you should know that one already, means it has one angle that has a right angle, which is 90 degrees exactly. Remember, acute has to be less than 90, whereas a right angle is exactly 90. Obtuse means it has one angle that is larger than 90. You can see here it's this one. Okay, these two are acute little angles, but this one is definitely larger than 90. So angles that are greater than 90 has one angle greater than 90. Not all of them. That wouldn't work. Okay, so equal angular, acute, right, and obtuse. Okay, then you can have an equilateral. That word lateral means sides. So all sides are congruent. So you see how they've marked each side the same. So those three sides are congruent. Isosceles, it's the funniest word you'll probably use, is two sides are congruent. So one away from being equilateral. Two sides are congruent. Usually it looks like a tall, skinny triangle. And then scaling means out of all three of these sides, none of them equal each other. So all of these side lengths are different lengths. That would be a scaling triangle. Okay, so these are all the different ways you can classify a triangle. And a lot of times you're going to classify it with at least two classifications. Like you can say it's an isosceles triangle that is also acute, because all the little angles are small. Okay, let's practice a couple of these. Look back at your chart. If all the angles are different, one of them was 110, so it would be obtuse. All three sides being not congruent is the... Okay, so this is number one out of your workbook that you're doing today. So I'm on page 221 in your workbook. You can see they have a triangle here, and we have three side measurements. I'm going to go ahead and mark them. You see that this is 8, this is 10, and this is 6. So all three of those have a different length. Remember, when all of the side measures have a different length, it is a scaling triangle. Okay, so when you're doing this lesson, I would just have your book open. Same thing when you do the IXL, I think, tomorrow. Okay, but the other thing to notice is that one of these angles is a right angle, meaning it's 90 degrees. So there is one right angle, so that would be how you classify the angles. This is also a right triangle. So if I were to write this, I would say that this is a right scaling triangle. Whenever you're asked to classify triangles, always look at their sides and try and classify that, and then always look at their angles and try and classify that. Sometimes you'll be able to write more than one thing. Okay, let's look at number 2. So you're going to go to our tree. Okay, so for number 2, let's look at the angles first. You see that this angle measure equals that angle. Well, remember what it was when we had 2 angles that equaled each other? Nothing. And then you see this third angle is larger than 90. So do you remember what that one is? That's an obtuse. So this is an obtuse triangle. Okay, now let's look at the sides. This is where I was going with the other just a second ago. So these 2 sides equal each other. This last side does not. So when you have 2 sides that equal each other, that's the isosceles. Uh-oh, I don't know if I can spell. So this triangle is an obtuse isosceles triangle. Okay? So I'm going to let you classify numbers 3 and 4. You should be able to do those 2. Let's look at number 5 together. Okay, so for this question, they want you to classify the triangle by the sides and their angles. Now, they've just given you the measurements. You can just go off of these measurements, or you could sketch it if that helps you. It doesn't matter to me. I sketch starting with the angles. So I see that I have one angle that's 110, so that's a big fat angle. And then 2 angles that are skinnier. So this would be my 110. This one would be 30. This one would be 40. Okay, so if all my angles are different, what was that classification? Okay, so far we know that this triangle is an obtuse. Whoops, I forgot the B. Obtuse triangle. Okay, now the sides, you can see here, they're 44, 28, so this one's 44, this one's 28, and this one's 24. Some of you may wonder how I do that so quickly. The largest side goes across from the largest angle, so 110, 44, the 28 would be across from the 40, and then the smallest side is across from the smallest angle. That's for you later. Okay, so all 3 sides are different measurements. Okay, so if we go, so scaling. I keep having to flip pages. You should be able to just look in your journal. Okay, scaling. So that's number 5, an obtuse scaling triangle. Okay, so I'm going to let you do number 6. And then 7 and 8 are word problems. You should be able to work your way through those. And then on the back side, page 222, these are all multiple choice. You need to work your way through those. So if you have any questions, let me know. Again, that chart that was at the very beginning is very important. Make sure you've put that in your journals. So this is workbook. You're doing page 221, numbers 1 through 8, and then page 222, numbers 1 through 6. All right, let me know if you have any questions.